you live now,
Alright.
so we'll be on. Good luck. You can start whenever you're ready.
Alright, hello. So, my name is Sat. I will be running Metroid Dread All Bosses Unrestricted today. This category, or I guess this rule set in particular, has gone through a ton of different changes when it comes to tricks discovered in recent time. And we're going to be doing the all bosses version of this rule set. There are 12 bosses according to Boss Rush, but a lot of these bosses compared with other ones that I guess the developers didn't think were necessary because they're not as memorable as the actual big fights in those segments. So there are actually 30 bosses in total, and from my experience anyway, this route is pretty exciting, and also decides sometimes that it's just going to be difficult, so hopefully we'll do well today. Time starts when I hit continue on the file select, so I'm going to count us down for that, and then I'll start my own timer. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Alright, so a lot of the gameplay in this is just raw movement, so fortunately for me, the tricks don't come into play until a bit later. Unfortunately for me, there are still enough tricks in the early game to where, for many runners, the first 20 minutes happens to be the most difficult part of the run. So I'm going to try my best to get through the game as fast as possible, using all movement options like the running melee to skip ledges so that I don't stop on the way down. Sometimes there are these breakable blobs on the way that block your way through terrain. There are also times where those breakable blobs would help us get through terrain, but they're not accessible, so we're going to use glitches called pseudo waves, for example, which is just a play on having the ability to shoot through walls without the wave beam, hence the pseudo part. So we can access parts of the game a little bit sooner, and we're going to be using it very, very soon in the first zone of the game, Artaria. We got the climb here. Whoa, that's weird. I'm a little bit tired, so, I mean, it happens. Going through the climb here, we're already going to be heading down into this area to fight our first boss of the game, the Broken Emmy, or the Proto Emmy. I'm going to skip this missile, just because. The reason why we're skipping that missile, I normally wouldn't skip that, is because we're playing on rookie mode, which starts you with 15 extra missiles, just for consistency's sake. Because this category already has a lot of issues in it. When it comes to skill checks in the middle of the run, I would rather not deal with those. But the Proto Emmy essentially is just a tutorial on how to use Omega Cannon and the eventual Omega Stream, which we'll pick up on the White Emmy, which is the second Emmy of the game. But for now, we're pretty much only told how to shoot out and destroy an Emmy, these big bads. We're not going to see one for a while, actually, because the route we're going to take through Artaria ends up spawning the White Emmy, so he won't be bothering us. Speaking of that route, it's right here. We're going to be doing a pseudo wave, like I mentioned, through the ceiling to break this blob backwards. That's our first real glitch usage of the run, and this allows us to do what should be the last encounter in Artaria backwards. So we're doing the last encounter Artaria first, Corpius. This boss is surprisingly a challenge because his head is invisible and keeps moving. And if you want to get this fight done as fast as possible, you really don't want to miss any. And there I just missed 2 extra, more than I should. So I'm going to have to go into phase 3 here. So there we go, 2 missiles. Now we are in the Phantom Cloak. The entire point of doing this first is less so about the fact that we get Cloak early, and more about the fact that shooting that ceiling backwards, that blob backwards, opens up a path through Artaria that skips, let's say, a minute and a half's worth of the region. So basically, any category that does any sort of glitch, whether it be no major glitches or unrestricted, will always take this path if the runner is comfortable doing so. It saves a lot of time with the glitchless variation. It also ends up making a certain trick coming up a lot more simple because of the cloak, which is a 15-second time save, so we'll be seeing that in just a moment. For now, I hate this room. These twin blobs right here, sometimes, if your controller doesn't really cooperate, aiming at those blobs can be really challenging. We got past it just for fun. And then there, you might notice that I slid into thin air and still managed to jump. That's called coyote jumping. And that is a movement tech I believe is officially endorsed from the Dread reports back before the game released. And they specifically put that in so that going through like horizontal distances in the air is that you normally wouldn't be able to get to with a regular jump is easier. But here we're going to do with the water slope skip with the Phantom Cloak. So the entire point of that is that I don't have to go down into the water that I'm going to cross to my left right here. You might have seen that water and a blob there. The entire point of that is to skip all of that. It's made a lot easier with Cloak because the Phantom Cloak nerfs your horizontal jump distance. And then here we have the water platform skip, which helps me to pretty much avoid lowering some water so that I can... Or is it raising? I think it's raising, right? It helps me to avoid changing any water level, so I have to take like a slope platform to get down. That saves 11 seconds. And we've got the charge beam already. The first the first real like impactful upgrade of the game. Charge beam in this game is pretty different from other games in that there's a mechanic in it where you can quick charge or get a charge beam off sooner than you should be able to. So the idea is that if you're ever in partial charge state and you turn around or you're in spin jump, you can release that partial charge and get a full charge. Just like that. That Pinky takes 2 charge shots to defeat. Use 1 and then a quick charge to destroy it, and you can just go through. The fastest way to get through that guy. I'm not sure if it's an intended mechanic, but if it is, I love the devs. So here's another example of using that shortcut we opened up at the beginning of the game to pass through. Otherwise, we'd have to go through a very, very long ME zone section. But the other thing about it is that it would spawn the white ME, which we don't want to do right now. More blobs. Going all the way through Artaria. Man, this game is so pretty. I'm gonna try to go for a platform weave here. That's for the fans, but I missed, so I'm a disappointment. It's very hard. Samus's collision in this game is pretty wonky in certain movement type tricks, like platform weaving, like I tried to do right there. There are times where, even though it's an analog stick, like this, you have to only press a direction for a frame or two, and if any of you have ever used an analog stick before, that is not very easy, but if you hit that specific platform weave to get down all those platforms, you'll save like a second, and if you miss it, it's slower than the alternative. All good though. Speaking of all good, these atoms. Yeah, we just played Fusion Rando, I think, on the marathon. Shoutouts to that run. And Adam, very prevalent in that game, makes a return in this game, but we skip him with a trick in the next area coming, the Cataris zone. Here we did a trick called Magus Skip, where we use it in particular just to spawn the white ME, because if we don't do that, then we can't defeat the white ME when we come down here. He won't come out. So it's a soft lock. You might notice as well that I'm kind of jumping ship on a lot of these points. I do apologize for that, but this game is very fast. I'm trying my best to try to keep up with the pace of the game itself. We get the Omega Stream. Finally, we're going to fight our first true ME fight. I'm going to attempt to do a quick ME kill. It's very precise when it comes to the movement to get towards it. That is dubious. I was a little slow on my way down. Yeah, I'm not risking it. We're going to slide under it and finish the kill on the other side. The idea is that you want to get there quickly, plant your feet, and then immediately start shooting, and then you can actually destroy the faceplate and defeat the ME from the same spot. It is only very slightly faster, but it looks really cool. I'm a little salty that I missed it, but it's okay. But yeah, in going back to the Atom skip part, since this part's a bit of a dead area, we get Spider Magnet. We're gonna make our way to Catarus now. The Atom skip is a very pivotal trick in this game because there are so many atoms and they're so very slow to where if we end up skipping one and leaving one behind, then the other atoms won't really bother you unless you want them to, which no one wants to talk to Adam, so it is what it is. And we end up saving upwards 3 minutes depending on the category that you're running. I forgot to split, so my timer's red. I apologize. So Atom skip is going to be really important. Unfortunately, it's very difficult as well. Very, very precise. So hopefully I don't get bogged down by it too much later down the line. We should be fine. Heading into the Catarus elevator here, we're going to do a deboost series. Want to get over this pillar. We're going to manipulate this fly and then use it to get up. This allows us to skip the ceiling rail, we like to call the rail of shame, if and only if you go for the deboost setup and you miss it. In fact, I'm comparing against my worst splits right now. Yeah, it's a 25-second time difference. The rail of shame is... If you ever learned the elevator deboost that I just did, and you end up taking the rail of shame, you know why it's the rail of shame. Genuinely. Going into Catarus here, these load screens, definitely get used to them. This is one of those things in this game where I'm actually glad the load screens are kind of long. It lets you take a drink. It lets you, I don't know, snack on something, talk to Twitch chat, scroll Twitter, look at your Discord pings, whatever it might be. But it's over. It's over just as fast as it can. We're going to be heading down Catarus now. The first room of the game. We're already seeing a lot of these movement principles come back into play, like weaving through platforms. I did make a mistake by grabbing a magnet. That is something that happens a lot once you get the spider magnet, especially if you're just trying to fall past the ledge. If you're holding the direction towards the ledge, you will grab it. So there are times where the best option in movement is to not touch your left stick at all. Just let your fall momentum carry you, for example. I'm gonna try to go for... Ooh, nice. That's really precise. It lets you not get hit by the claw, which saves like frames if you do it right. I'm never sure if I do it right, but it's fine. Shoot the thing. Alright, so next we're going to be doing another deboost in Catarus already. So here's the super boost, or the 5 upper boost. I think I just messed it up. Aw, man. Alright, I tried. I don't know why I messed it up like that. I just forgot the setup immediately. But the idea is that you get to skip having to wait for the magnet to come down by manipulating 2 plies, and then the third, or defeating 2 plies. The third ply will be where you want it to, and it'll smack you across. We got our first hell run of the day, going through with 1 tank. I'm pretty sure the developers knew you could do it with a tank. They put it there just to let you flex. It is really satisfying to do. You got the Emmy on the ceiling, slide under it. You can pass by that by aiming down and shrinking your vertical hitbox. But my movement through room 1 was a little suspicious, so I didn't really want to risk it. There's a lot of like on-the-fly decisions you have to make, because in this game enemies do move, like the Emmys in particular, they do move when you're off screen. So depending on the spawn that you get, you do have to be aware of what you can and can't do if your movement is fast or slow in certain areas. We have another pseudo wave coming. This one's very difficult. I'm gonna give it 1 more shot. Alright, I messed it up. Aww. That saves 8 seconds if you do it first try. Unfortunately, because I missed it 4 times, I am going to lose maybe 13 seconds. I'm gonna do another pseudo there, just so I don't have to go under the button. So the pseudo from Hell, which is called Hell Pseudo for that reason, it's a very hot room, basically means you don't have to make this trip all the way to the button in order to shoot it out. And it means that when you cross into this room for the first time, you can already start going upward. And that saves 8 seconds, like I mentioned, on first try. Unfortunately, it's really dangerous and difficult. For example, if you only have 1 tank, which I have 2 of since I picked up the Artaria one, if you do 3 attempts in quick succession, you will be left with 1 HP because the robot on the ceiling will continue to hit you. So you have to be aware of how fast you're reattempting, and you also have to just hit the shot. Pseudo waves are very difficult. You only get like a frame or two to time your shots through the ceiling. So here's Adam Skip. That's not good. I'll explain this in just a moment. That should work. Yay. So Adam Skip is a series of wall jumps and a very specifically timed melee into just mashing your B button. And that allows you to get a ideal wall jump from the intersection between the slope on the wall and the flat wall. And basically what that does is it makes it so that any wall jump you do after that, as long as they're buffered and as far away from the wall you're kicking off as possible, you should be able to make it to the top magnet and basically skip a minute's worth of Cataris, which includes an Adam station. And because that's the next Adam in lore, Adam will never move from there. So every Adam station you come across from this point forward in the route will be devoid of an annoying dad just telling you where to go. Going through again, we're gonna have another encounter with the green enemy, but thankfully, if you just melee to the wall, wait to contact, turn around, and then melee and respin over it, you will get by every time. And now we're going to do early zipper, which is where we use wall jumps here, so we can catch the magnet on the way down, so we don't have to wait for it to go back up. It's basically the complete opposite of some other stuff. I forgot. Which D-boost was it? It wasn't super boost. There's a D-boost somewhere where it's kind of the other way around. I'm not sure which one it is. Alright. Going past this now that we've lowered the grapple magnet, getting the energy tank here. We're going to be collecting 3 energy tanks this run. E-tanks are generally very precious resources in the early game, because the early game happens to have some of the fastest E-tanks to collect, and then after that they do get a little more annoying to pick up and have to deal with. So definitely just pick up some E-tanks when you can, especially as you're getting comfortable with the route. I'd say like 3, 4, 5 is very good to just sit on, depending on your relative skill. And in this case, we're going to be using 3. I started by trying to use 2 at one point on this route, but in around, let me give a very quick estimate. In around maybe 25 minutes, you'll see why having 2 is not a good idea. Oh, man. But going past Cataris, now we're basically past like the reset points of the run for the early game anyway, and the next maybe 15-20 minutes is pretty smooth sailing, and then we get tossed back into pain. So this is a pretty chill segment. Going to be heading through Dyron here. We're here to pick up a beam upgrade, the spacer, I mean the wide beam, right? We just played fusion, so I do have to stay consistent and say the wide beam, can't say the spacer beam. No. Does anyone know why the spacer is called the spacer? Is that a different language, or is there like a wordplay there or something? Maybe something got lost in translation? Because I know the Varia suit is only the Varia suit because of the barrier suit, but it was lost in translation. But why is spacer called spacer? Anyway, turning on the lights in this area basically just opens the access to the wide beam, but it also ends up opening access to some hot rooms that are under the room we just left and are about to get back into, and we're going to be using those later down the line. There are 2 of these power generators in Dyron. Dyron is basically like the tech hub of ZDR, which is the planet that we're on. Getting the wide beam here. I'm not sure if this is my favorite iteration of the wide beam. I mean, Fusion's wide beam just looks like candy, which is tasty. But, oh no. So the wide beam in this game is used in many different ways, not just in combat. For example, these push blocks, where you have to have a charged wide beam to basically push them out. The big reason why some of us in the community very much despises these is because Samus has to be basically shooting perfectly straight, otherwise some of the prongs of the wide beam can and will miss. And if all 3 don't hit the wide beam block at the same time, then you're just gonna have to try again. And you might have noticed there that When I hit it first try and moved past, the green bat behind me decided to say hello. If I missed, that bat would hit me. And depending on your HP levels, maybe you're playing on hard mode, or maybe you're playing on dread mode and you can't afford to take a hit. Yeah. You'll just take a hit. For zero reason. Alright, going back into Cataris, we're going to pick up an upgrade that many feel that should have been an earlier upgrade. We're going to get the Morph Ball here. But to do that, we're going to have to fight the green Emmy, and there are some strategies we use to make the green Emmy a lot simpler. That includes the CU fight in particular, which is the mother brain type thing that controls the Emmy. I think it controls the Emmy. Does it control the Emmy zone? I'm not too sure. We're going to be making use, finally, now that we have the wide beam, we're going to be making use of a technique called charge missiling, which basically uses the quick charge that I mentioned earlier and missiles, like this, to get as much instantaneous DPS as possible in one moment. So normally you could only defeat these things with missiles at this juncture, or charge beam, but the charge beam is usually very weak, but if you combine both of them, it's just enough to make it worth it. Here we're going to try for a green Emmy kill called Professor Stupid. Oh, I messed up. Great. You're supposed to shoot that blob out and melee over this green Emmy and then defeat it on the underside of the platform. Unfortunately, the blob decided it didn't want to break. I have not had that issue in... I don't even know how long. That's how long ago it's been. Oh man. So the reason why we would be doing a kill like that, nailing over it, finishing the kill on the bottom side, jumping over it, potentially meeting death, is because you'll notice here that wherever you defeat the Emmy is also where you kind of teleport and you see, like, you're there for the next segment. So I'm up here right now. I should be right here right now. And the reason why that's important is because it takes time to travel to that point on the next split. But if you do the Professor Stupid trick, you basically start down there. So it gives you a head start on the next split, and it's not that big of a time difference compared to the former split. So you end up saving a second. But if you die, you lose however many, which is not very good. Gonna pick up this missile tank just for consistency's sake, heading into Kraid, which is after the Varia suit, which is where we're going right now. But while we're in this down period, I'm going to take a moment to explain, or try to preface, why the middle of the game is going to be extremely hard for me to explain, because there's a lot of tricks in close proximity and they all do the same stuff. So basically, Unrestricted lives and dies by the Holy Trinity of major upgrades, which is the Flash Shift, the Speed Booster, and the Grapple Beam. The Flash Shift and Speed Booster both can combine themselves to allow you to sink through terrain, which we call shine sinking, and the Grapple Beam makes it so that you can survive that sink, because in this game, if you're in the Grapple Beam, out of bounds death flames do not hurt you. I believe this is because the Grapple Beam can sometimes clip you into out of bounds, and you would just die for no reason. Probably play tested, and they said, let's bandage fix that by making the Grapple Beam out of bounds safe. We use that in a lot of places in Unrestricted just to get some time save, open up some new routing options, and especially in this category, just because it's so powerful. There's a lot of tricks with it. Like, shine sinking is only the parent trick. You'd think that falling through floors, or in some cases clipping through walls, or ceilings even, is like kind of where it stops. Nah. The most powerful trick we've discovered in recent time is a derivative of shine sinking, and it's gonna be very difficult for me to explain later. You get the Varia suit now. Best colorway in the game, agreed. If you don't agree with that, I respect it. However, Varia suit. Anyway, we're going to be taking this Varia suit to go through some heated areas, and we're going to just book it to Kraid pretty much. Kraid is not only a boss, but also holds the diffusion beam, but also holds a shortcut to Dyron, which is the place we're going after Kraid, by way of a green teleporter. So the teleporter system in this game, there are a lot of different colors of TPs. I think there's like 8, might be wrong, never counted. And they basically just take you from point A to point B on any region. And some of the TPs that we use are not used at all in other categories except for like 100%, for example. One of the reasons why I love all bosses unrestricted is because it is the only category that's not 100% that uses the cyan teleporter, or the light blue teleporter, pretty much. And there are some teleporters that are used all the time that are not used at all in this category, such as the green TP. I think you don't use the green TP. So this category is really unique. I'm really, honestly, I'm kind of blessed to be able to present it in any marathon setting. So early shoutouts to SpeedGaming for inviting me in. Heading
Well,
through
thank
the
you
rock
for doing the run. Do you have a moment for me to read a donation?
Sure.
All right, we got a $25 donation from Leno, who says, put this towards the dev ending. Dream team for the hype. That would be the Chrono Trigger developers ending coming up later tonight in about 9 hours. Don't forget, we have other incentives. Strider 2 games, 1 controller coming up in just about an hour and a half, so that's coming up pretty soon. Little Samson, we have the difficulty upgrade up to normal mode, zero mode, and that's after worth it, and then Chrono Trigger after that. So get your donations in, speedgaming.org/nokidhungry for all the rest.
Alright. While Fiesel was reading that donation, I was having a slight issue with Kraid. See, this boss in particular, he's really loud, so I am a little bit sketch about saying that it was a good time for donations. If he was screaming, I'm very sorry if some of that didn't get translated. But basically the name of the game on this boss is to just shoot as many missiles as you can in its mouth. You may have noticed that I did some single wall jumping to get up to the top left side magnet. That is something that is only accessible to you once you get the morph ball. Single wall jumping in this game is generally not doable unless you're on a magnet, in which case it's not really wall jumping, is it? It's just magnet jumping. But with the morph ball, you can hang yourself in the air by morphing and unmorphing, and have the neutral stick in a wall jump, and it basically lets you gain a lot of height that you normally couldn't, and then lose less height respinning towards the wall. And you repeat this, and you can just climb walls for free. This is eventually superseded once you get the flash shift upgrade, and it's eventually even more superseded once you get a jump upgrade, but we're not there yet. So, at least for Kraid, we don't have access to either of those in a timely manner, so we use single wall jumps to avoid having to wait for the belly claws to come out and create stairs, or just to avoid us having to shoot the belly and force Kraid to give us the stairs, pretty much. Heading out through Purple TP back to Dyron, we're going to be going through the hot rooms that I mentioned earlier after the power generator. We're going to be going left. Some of you who have watched No Major Glitches runs might be confused. That's the why I'm going left and not right. Unrestricted generally gets the bombs first and not the grapple beam first, because the grapple beam is gotten on the way to certain upgrades later. We got a unfavorable yellow Emmy spawn, so we'll have to fandangle around it. There's a lot of pressure to hit the single wall jump right here. If you don't hit that first try, as you may have noticed, the yellow Emmy under us would have had some words to say. So thankfully I hit it. Fun fact, I once had a personal best in any percent UR where I died to that guy. I also had another one, which is the current world record, where I died to some random enemy on the street. So, I mean, this game's really dangerous for sure. There's a lot of places where it's just like, I did not expect to randomly take so much damage, and then you get to a point in the game where it's like, it's just normally pretty chill, and then you just take 80 damage out of nowhere from some random dude that you never thought was a threat. So yeah, that's another reason why E-tanks can and will come in handy. Having 2 tanks here is pretty standard on these routes, thankfully. So it's not too dangerous yet. Picking up the bombs, they behave just as much as you would expect from any Metroid game pretty much. However, they do have one property to them that is unique, I think, which is the bomb launchers. I'm pretty sure in 2D Metroid this is the first time. Not like the speed morph launchers from what is it? From ZM or something, but bomb launchers like this. In fact, they were so buggy in the first patch of the game. We have a glitch called Mystery Move, which is where if you jumped and then bombed into launcher at the same time, as the name suggests, you would just go somewhere. I think that's how it worked. I wasn't around for patch 1, so I wouldn't really know, but I have heard some funny stories. And at some point I did have access to the first patch of the game, but I never got to experiment with it. I do want to play around with unrestricted sometimes, just like all these little glitches that nobody ever ends up using because they're either patched out or they do nothing. I'm pretty sure Mystery Move is actively harmful, but yeah, these bomb launchers, they just take you places. We're going to use one of the bomb launchers in particular later on in the game to perform what's known as Fast Elon. Fast Elon. This is the only category that does it, pretty much. We have time for donos if you have any, by the way. Just anytime we're on a tram like this, you can just hit me up, basically. What's going on, though? Let's head on over through Berenia. So because we don't have the grapple beam, pretty much, we have to go through the underwater section. Thankfully, these claws here, I would hope that Mercury Steam put them here on purpose because they do allow us to use the suction, basically, to skip past some of the terrain underwater. I really appreciate it because I hate water in this game. I thought I hated water in Super, but in this game, for some reason, like, it's very snappy moving, but, like, just get me out of the water, man. It's so slow. Like, falling in that moat, for example, I used the coyote jump so I could get around it. And coyote jumping is the name for, like, sliding and jumping off of the air. I used one there to get across that moat, but if I didn't do that, I would have to just try again, pretty much. And I would have to fall in the water first. But here we have an infinite bomb jump that I'm going to do diagonally like this, and it'll allow me to fool the pressure pad to thinking that I'm not on it. And it lets me get the flash shift backwards, but most importantly, it lets me get it like 30 seconds faster. Because the alternative is to go downward and go through a giant water section, which I just mentioned is painful. We're going to be skipping the Berenia tank because there's another tank that's much better to get very soon. And also we do have the flash shift, so that's part 1 of the 3 Holy Trinity of unrestricted. Here is another example of a pseudo wave. There is no real name for this one as far as I understand, but there is a name for this one. This is a pause buffer double turnaround or crouch turnaround underwater. And basically it just abuses the fact that in certain actions, Samus's cannon or Samus's beam shot will start inside of terrain, and then if you start the shot in terrain, it'll just pass through terrain, and you'll make it through the other side with your shot. So we use it to shoot some of these blobs backwards, and it just means we don't have to travel down to them and suffer the water consequence. But yeah, you also may have noticed that I did a bomb jump in midair when I normally shouldn't be able to. This is because there's a glitch called underwater bomb jumping. If you bomb on the ground, get lifted up by it in the water, and then unmorph, you store the state where you can actually bomb jump in the air again. If you jump up, lay a bomb, unmorph, then jump back into it and morph again, you can actually bomb jump in midair in the water. We used that a couple of times throughout the run, but I believe in this route, it's the second time, the one of 2 times we'll be using it. Going through here, we're finally going to say bye to the speed enemy. One of the most annoying enemies casually to defeat. But in speed running, we make a very quick work of it. Using more charged missiles here. I ended up missing 1 rep, but it doesn't that matter. Still much faster than doing regular missiles on it. And now we're going to have the toughest ME fight of the game. I cannot state how difficult this is. I mean, look at how much skill expression is involved in holding this direction and holding the Y button. I'm just saying. If you do, however, miss, or if you greed, the speed ME, as the name suggests, will start speeding. It runs at the same speed as you do, and the idea is that once you get flash, you can actually outrun it. But we need to sit there and shoot at its faceplate, so that's not really a good idea. So one of the best things about this fight is that we can just sit there and stun lock it pretty much, and if you do it well enough, you can actually defeat it before it comes out the tunnel. These are always funny. We got the speed booster here. We're 2 out of 3 on the unrestricted Holy Trinity. So already we do, I'm going to start explaining some of the unrestricted things early on now. Already we have access to a glitch called the Shine Sink, like I mentioned earlier, where if you flash into a wall, buffer a slide into it, turn around, and then sink on a spark on a particular frame, you can start sinking into walls. You can interrupt that by sliding or by tapping frame and pressing down to go through some floors. Unfortunately, because we don't have the grapple beam, that will just kill us. So our next objective now is to get the grapple beam. The thing, however, with it is that, like I mentioned, shine sinking is the parent trick, pretty much. So we have other tricks to go through eventually that are much more difficult to explain, but are even more powerful than going through terrain. We're going to be using one right away, actually, once we get out of this elevator. So the trick that's coming up is called Axis Skew, or the Skew State, or named after one of the original finders of it, the Bomohe Skew. So the idea is that you initiate a shine sink, fall off of a platform, or enter like a falling state before the spark timer from the shine sink would expire, and then you will free aim behind Samus, pause, and then use that pause to buffer a forward input immediately, like in one frame. And if you end up doing that, you have this state where you can interrupt any turning animation on the ground from Samus with a jump, and you will retain that axis skew. So I'm going to try to get that here. Like this. There we go. So this state is characterized by having any spin jump not change direction midair. And if I ever, in a turning animation on the ground, and I do a spin jump, I will retain that axis skew pretty much. This state, however, is very volatile because to lose the state, it's very, very easy. Turn around in a neutral state midair, which is, if you ever played Metroid Dread, that is not difficult. So a lot of the times you'll see me using Morph Ball in particular to make it so that I can't fall in a neutral state by accident. So right here, we're just going to maintain that axis skew state. We're going to take it all the way to these water slopes, and we're going to use it to clip through a wall. Right here. There we go. First try. So you see I interrupted the turning animation so that Samus ends up facing the background. And because we're in water, the rotation axis is such that it's just slight enough to where I can just walk through terrain. The collision check doesn't work. Here I did a more traditional version of the Shine Sink. That is like basically the original Shine Sink right there. And we can pass through a floor just like that. So we already did 2 glitches. We're going to do another one immediately. Like I mentioned, unrestricted is very hard to explain. We need to get into the Berenia Artaria elevator backwards so that we can access Frozen Artaria early. And to do this, basically, I'm going to spin in place a lot. For some reason, when you spin in place, or every time you turn around, Samus's rotation value is slightly shifted. So when I do this, just enough to create an offset, that should be enough. And now I'm going to use some pause buffers to try to get a serviceable axis skew, like so. So now my axis is so slightly shifted to where, again, the collision on the door doesn't register that I'm in it, pretty much, and it'll just let me pass right by like this. Then I'm going to open this door backwards. We normally are not supposed to be here like this, ever. However, if you do remember from older unrestricted runs, for example, there was a glitch called camlock that used to go here. Camlock unfortunately does the slower versions of Artaria, so because of that, we just use the faster Artaria routing, and then we just do this wall clip instead. This wall clip, however, is extremely dangerous, much like every other wall clip in the game. If you lose skew, you have to get it back, which means you have to be in a spot that you can speed booster and shine sync off of, with some ground under you, among other things. It's a very dangerous trick. If you mess it up, your run is basically over. So here, the reason why we went to Frozen Barenia, which people normally don't even know exists, is because we need to fight the Barenia bots up here. This is the only time we can fight these guys. Thankfully, we have the screw attack, and we have speed booster by way of axis skew, so we can spark one of them, like so. And then we're going to do another one here. Spark this one. And that was actually a very good fight, as long as I don't mess up. He is running away from me. That's fine. We still have the axis skew, which is the most important thing. We even ended the fight on the right side of the arena. I've never done that. Gotta make sure, again, I'm making very sure that I don't accidentally turn around mid-air. That would be disastrous, because I need the skew here for the next part of this. Alright. Going into Frozen Artaria, we need to fight the boss of Frozen Artaria, which is the Chozo Warrior. However, we do not have the Plasma Beam, and there are no floors we can use to clip through for free, so we have to use a wall clip. Getting a wall clip angle, however, like you saw earlier, requires a lot of spinning around. There is a setup to get around it, however, I don't know the one for that door, but I do know the one for the upcoming wall, which is a triple frame perfect jump setup. I'm gonna try to just hit it here. The alternative is to do spins in place, so I'm really not a fan. I was a frame early on the last jump. I'm not exaggerating when I talk about the frame perfectness of this. That should work. Let me just get here. Two, three, four. Spark through the wall. And then here we're going to do another pseudo wave to break this guy. And then get a speed booster in place here, and we're going to sink into the access area. Like so. And then we're going to get another axis skew speed booster in this very tiny area, because we are very under-equipped for the boss, so getting rid of phase 1 with a speed booster is just very nice. And now we have only the wide beam, and we have to use it to fight this very dangerous boss when we don't have A, the gravity suit, B, more tanks, and C, some sort of weapon that just does damage to this guy. We're not supposed to be here. We're supposed to be here like 20 years in the future, pretty much. But oh, I took damage. Thankfully, it doesn't one-shot. Nice. All right. So we've gotten past just now some of the more dangerous and, quite frankly, terrifying parts of the category. So I get to rest easy now. Just for a little bit, and then it goes back to being very obnoxious, but unrestricted be like that. There's a lot of tricks in this. Oh, am I gonna hit this again? I'm built diff! Wait, I'm doing this the wrong way. I am so dumb! Alright, I guess I'm just gonna do bomb jumps here. I don't know why I did it. No! I am in danger, health-wise. It's okay. I thought I was playing 100%. What I was trying to do with the speed booster there is a 100% tech. For some reason, I forgot I was doing all bosses, so my bad. Okay, that was not what I wanted to do, but it's okay. Using a shine spark here. I can release charge shots in the middle of my shine sparks by holding the charge and tapping R to switch to missiles, and it releases the charge shot for you in the middle of a shine spark. Thankfully, it releases forwards, so we get to shoot in front of us and open some doors, maybe spark through some doors. But now we have another boss fight. We're going to use axis skew in a different way here. This is actually, I believe this is one of the first ways we found axis skew for boss fights, Z57. I'm going to be entering the fight by holding my Y button, and basically when you enter the fight, Samus is facing Z57, like physically. If you release a partial charge shot, for some reason she ends up facing us. And this is a good thing, because it means we can speed boost her in place, and that means we have the quote-unquote space for a speed booster, so we can one-shot Z57. The boss is programmed to die in one hit from a speed booster, so hopefully I make this look really easy and I don't struggle, because there's a lot of attack patterns you have to realize for this. Which way are you going? Nice. So that's Z57. Many of you who have played this game might recognize that boss as one of the more annoying bosses to fight casually, but in Unrestricted, we decide that it's not worth our time, and we can spark it and make the fight last less than 10 seconds, depending on RNG even, which I always liked. So apparently there's a speed keep here, but I messed it up, so we're just gonna go without speed keep. I'm not fancy enough. Oh, no! No, no! Get back up there! Thank you. Get up there. Yeah. Great. We're gonna be heading towards the orange teleporter now. And the reason why we're doing that is so we can basically access Gavarin backwards, which is a later game area. But we're going to access the later parts of the later game area early, because it just makes routing more simple. We're going to need to get axis skew again for this. Let me just check to make sure I have it. I do. Once again, you can check for axis skew by doing a spin jump. Once again, you can check for axis skew by doing a spin jump and turning around in it. And if you don't flip, you have axis skew. Why did that take so long? I have never been trolled by this room as much. What is going on? Oh, man. Alright. I'm going to be heading through into orange TP. So the reason why we need axis skew here is specifically because we need it to do a trick. Or, well, we don't need it to do a trick, but the alternative is not even well understood, and only one person has done it, I believe. All of one time, out of many, many hours. We're going to be using the axis skew to get a speed booster, basically in a space we should not be having it in, and it allows us to access the tower to the right of us early. You'll see here, basically, using the axis skew to get a speed booster lets me access that slope early. And now I'm going to shine sync into the Golzuna arena and also not fight Golzuna. So here's the confusion, right? Like I should be fighting Golzuna because it's a boss. However, you can't actually fight Golzuna right now. And the reason if you know, you know. And the reason why you can't fight him right now is because the X have to be released for you to even spawn the Golzuna fight at all. Because Golzuna is an X boss, but not just that, Golzuna is a multi-phase X boss. So you need to have the X released, and because we haven't fought or entered Elon yet, which is where in lore the X would get released, if you want to pass by Golzuna's lair, you're going to have to sync into the room. Otherwise, the door that exits the arena will be locked. So sync into the room and then go out the exit that's no longer locked. And then you have to do either axis skew speed boosters to get across those crumble bridges, or you can do very precise ledge grab into jump flashes to get past them. I prefer the latter, but as you saw, you can miss. And it's a little bit of a kick to the gut, but it is what it is. Heading into Hanubia, some place where I really feel like we shouldn't be right now, because it's a little early. There is a shine sync you can do here, but for some reason I forgot I could do it immediately, so we're just going to fight the time loss. I have another pseudo coming here. This one's just a double turnaround pseudo. Slide into a wall, and then turn around twice. And you can shoot through basically any wall if you do that. Good stuff. I never mentioned this, by the way, but to expand on like how poor it is to lose skew, for example, the orange teleporter segment is basically one of those places where if I lose skew in those tunnels on the Gaverin side, I am going to lose like 2.5 minutes because there is no other space for me to reobtain the skew, so I have to go back to Cataris, get it, and then come back to Gaverin. It's that bad. So if we do have skew and we intend to use it for something, we need to make very sure that we don't lose it. But here we're going to head to the left side of Ferenia. For some reason I lost speed booster. We'll call that intentional. And we're going to sink this way into the space jump. And now we finally have some late game upgrades with the wide beam, the standard missile, no cross bombs, Varia suit. Yeah. If it's very easy to tell right now that our loadout makes no sense. But this is just why I love Unrestricted so much. There's no rhyme or reason behind some of the upgrade choices we get now. We just get them if they're good for us. Doesn't matter when in the game we're supposed to get them in continuity. I just want the space jump right now. It helps me out. We also never go back there, so it is the best time to get the space jump, thankfully. And this is not the last you'll see of continuity breaking sequences, for example. So right now, in the state that we're in Ferenia, the purple Emmy doesn't exist. Oops, trying to do a shine sync here to access the storm missiles backwards. Call it backdoor storms for that reason. There we go. So, like, the purple Emmy isn't spawned. I am not sure what causes it to spawn. I believe it's the quiet robot fight. Oh no. So because we didn't fight the quiet robot, the purple Emmy is not active. I believe that's what's going on. We're gonna use a shine spark and wall to Pogo. Hello? Why did you go to what? Anyway, before he went to Hogwarts, we're going to be using the speed booster and the screw attack to make very quick work of SQ and his core X here. Using screw attack on SQ, using the speed booster on SQ I'm sure it's all dev intended. The screw attack specifically speaks about having extra damage dealt to electrified enemies, which SQ is one of, and I believe you're not supposed to have screw attack at all in the intended playthrough. So the devs are basically saying, what if you could get screw attack early? That would be nice. It's true. Trivializes the fight completely. Alright, now we're going to be doing another wall clip. Thankfully, however, this one is a lot easier. But we still need skew first, so off we go. Oh, I am on a roll with skew today. Alright, and now we're going to get a perfectly front-facing skew. Do some chicanery with a grapple block, or a grapple magnet. And now we can just go through this door with a very specific setup. Very quickly as well. So, for any of you who are wondering how that works, if you're an unrestricted runner yourself, or you're interested in it, Storm Skip. Come to the Metroid Dread Discord and ask about Storm Skip, and trust. I can't explain it in detail right now, because yeah, I need to explain the next part, which in my opinion is a little more important. So, this part of the game, you're supposed to have the gravity suit, and you're supposed to have, what is it? Like, every other upgrade in existence right now. But we don't have the gravity suit, so we have to supersede it with a axis skew up spark. So we just did gravity suit skip. We're never getting the gravity suit this route. This is one of the few routes that skips gravity completely. But the reason why it's called Storm Skip and not Gravity Skip is because Storm Skip is like the wall clip is supposed to skip storms as well, but because this is all bosses, we have to go fight SQs, so we have to get storms. We still call it Storm Skip though. It's a very specific wall clip. So yeah. We've got the Wave Beam Emmy right here. We're going to back ourselves into the wall using a flash shift to make ourselves flush with the wall. And now we can open fire on its face. If you miss 4 of these shots, you have to jump over it and do a different version of the kill. I'm going to trust myself. Nice. Now I can slide under and finish the kill down here instead. Sorry, I had to look at something. So now we have the Wave Beam. We are pretty far into the game now, into the route even. But we still have mid-game to play. And I mean mid-game as in like what would traditionally be mid-game. Because we just did early game and then we did late game and now we're going to go to the mid-game areas. So unrestricted, it's just like that. Thankfully, when it comes to the speedrunning part of it, we don't need skill anymore. So bless up. We're going to be doing a very specific routing here because we still need to activate the Quiet Robe fight, or the Quiet Robe boss. And also we need to fight the robots down here because they count as bosses. So we're going to fight them backwards like this. It also allows us to more easily carry a speed booster into the fight. I'm just going to get bopped real quick by all of these guys. Beat them like this with the Wave Beam. It's a lot easier with the Wave Beam. Thankfully, because you can ignore all the terrain. That would normally make the fight a little more complicated. Oh, where am I going? Wrong category. And now we're going to go fight what we should have fought after getting Speed Booster. And the reason why we do this is because it allows us to access Upper Barenia. And that basically transitions us into the what should be the mid game, but in our case it's the late game now. And Upper Barenia is important because it has bosses in it that we normally would not be able to fight otherwise. I'm gonna try to do a funny speed keep here. Oh? No! I could never reconcile that. The reason why it would be nice to have that speed is because we need to do a Shining here to access Cyan TP. Like this. Cyan TP is normally blocked off by either Storm Missiles on the Barenia side or Power Bombs on the Ferenia side, so we do a Shining instead. If only I kept the speed! I believe I could have wall jumped off the top wall. I almost had it. Almost. But now we're basically in boss cleanup. Whereas 100% would be doing item cleanup for minor items, we're now in boss cleanup mode. So we're going to get out of Cyan TP on the Barenia side, go up all the way this way. And these tunnels right here, as you can see, these would not be open if we didn't visit the Quiet Robot. So, yeah. One of the big reasons here. I forgot to store again. Normally we could ball start across this for fun. And now we get to fight the most memed boss of all time with a lot of upgrades that we basically should not be having right now, which I think is fine. We have the Wave Beam, and that by itself it's enough to just make this boss go bye-bye. Check this out. I'm gonna try to get a one-cycle kill as well. No! I was supposed to get another charge shot in phase 1 before the parry, but I missed the timing. So now we're gonna eat like maybe 15 seconds of time loss. I am very not practiced on the Wave Beam version of this quick kill, unfortunately. I tried my best. Now that we've cleaned up that boss, we can head up to Gavrin and clean up some more bosses. finally, we're going to the grassland area, or at least we're going to the early parts of this. We've basically done Gavarin backwards so far. Because we did the axis skew for the orange teleporter side of Gavarin to get to Golzuna, and therefore Hanubia earlier, now we're going to Gavarin the regular way, but obviously that should have been done backwards. For those of you who are familiar with the map, you might think that it's weird that I'm going right and not left, because left is faster going to Ice Missiles, which is our next destination. The thing is, though, there is a boss right here, and we need to say hi to him real quick. Basically the same strategy as normal. Just spark into him, and then decide that it's not worth our time with the wave beam. Otherwise, we could get into this room right here through the left from the elevator. And now we're going to go straight to Ice Missiles, using very funny movement with grapples and the space jump. We're not supposed to have the space jump right now either. Gonna shoot this door backwards. The blue Emmy is also not here. I forget what triggers the blue Emmy spawn, but we didn't trigger it, so it's not here. So it'll never bother us until we start the fight, in which case it will start bothering us. But by then, we're just gonna already be in place to defeat it. We opened that door backwards up top because by opening the door, we unlock another access path for the blue Emmy to come to us, which is up here, and now we can start this fight right away. The aim here is particularly challenging. The farther away an Emmy is, the harder it is to actually hit it, because the Omega Stream shots are relatively slow moving and they're not hit scan. But with enough practice, bullseye type moment. The novelty of being able to shatter the item collection or boss fight continuity is one of the reasons why Unrestricted is so fun. Learning it is definitely a little bit of a challenge. However, we have a very, very good support group in the Metroid Dread speedrunning server with a lot of unrestricted runners who have definitely been in those shoes before. And we all just, whenever there's a person who wants to learn unrestricted, we're just there to help. We're gonna do a glitch right here called Ledge Warp, which is where, I'm not sure if I got that, I hope I did, nice. So that glitch is pretty much where we store Samus's human actor on a ledge by morphing in a particular moment of mantling the ledge or climbing the ledge. And because Samus's human actor and Samus's morph actor are two different entities, we can keep her human actor there and then move around in the morph actor, interact with terrain, and then come back to the human actor by unmorphing mid-air facing the ledge. The same direction as the ledge. So because I did ledge warp facing right, if I unmorph in the air facing right, I will always teleport back to my human actor. I could be on the other corner of the map and I would still port all the way back. We have Elon here. So, like I mentioned in the beginning of all this, we have fast Elon coming up, which consists of ignoring this door, because we have the wave beam already. We're gonna spark into the Chozo Warrior boss fight backwards, and then annihilate it with the wave and storm missiles. So we've already accomplished what we need to do in Elon. We don't need the plasma beam, so we don't even need to get the we don't need to get it because we have the wave beam. But there's an issue. These doors are closed, so to get around it, we have to interact with the morph tunnel that is down this way, this morph launcher. On the other side of this is a trigger that opens the Elon doors. Oh, that's not good. I was supposed to ledge warp out. This is a huge time loss. Oh no! But it's okay. We can make it back relatively quickly. The idea was that I was supposed to ledge warp back to that door. So we're gonna lose maybe half a minute doing all this instead. It's okay though. It happens. See, the treat we get is that we get to hear the Elon Warrior music. This is totally what I wanted. Yep. But that's supposed to be fast Elon. I mean, it's way faster than regular Elon. Even with the detour that I did because I messed up my ledge warp, I ended up unmorphing in the air facing the wrong direction. I faced right and not left, so I didn't warp back to the ledge. It's still way faster than doing Elon correctly at all. Bless. So now we're going to make our way to the Gaverin Warrior, which to accomplish, we have to spawn it in first by going to the spin boost upgrade room. That is very slow though, so what ends up happening is we do another ledge warp. So we have 3 ledge warps to do right away in this route. I think I just did it first try actually. Yay! So we're going to carry this ledge warp all the way to the spin boost room. We're going to use bomb jumps here so we can get up, and then we can do another one here. Take this morph launcher, go into the spin boost room, go to the middle of the room, wait a couple seconds, ledge warp out, and now the warrior should be spawned. Yep, and we're gonna shine spark it like this. And it's dead. Super fast fight. Again, we are very over-equipped. We're not supposed to have the storm missiles. We're not supposed to have the wave beam. It's all mid-game stuff we're doing with late-game values. That mushroom, by the way, it stays frozen until we're done. I admire the tenacity of it, at least. I've never noticed that glitch until like Monday, so... Or was it Saturday? It was Saturday, right? Yeah. We're going to actually go up to fight Glazuna now. Thankfully. We still do these same boss strategies on this fight because the speed booster remains one of the best ways to fight him. Using very specifically timed speed boosters and shine sparks alongside iframing with the model here so we can get another speed booster. And then we can use 3 storm blocks to annihilate the Corex. There goes Glazuna. Finally. He has been defeated correctly. We don't have to skip him anymore. And another effect of beating Glazuna is that now we have cross bombs, which for once is welcomed, since we can use them to not have to do any sort of funny business to skip across these. Now we can end the game. We have done every single world boss outside of Hanubia and the final boss, or the final area of the game, thankfully. So now we can actually conclude the route. We have, how many more bosses are there? That's 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 4 bosses left, so we've done 26 of them. Might not feel that way, but that's because, again, like I mentioned at the start, a lot of these bosses don't seem like them, or they seem like they should be counting as one boss together. But, for example, the central units all count as one each, the ME count as one each, so on and so forth. I still think it's funny that Dragaga counts as a boss. I mean, he's really easy to beat. Here's the shine sink I should have done earlier. I messed it up. Never mind. But that shine sink does save time. Hit it. The tunnel makes it a little specific, though. One of the things about shine sinking is that the spacing at which you do your flash slide turnaround is very specific. Alright, we're going to finally be fighting some of these bosses with the loadouts that we should have. The only thing here compared to regular runs of the game, however, is that we do not have the gravity suit. So we take a ton of damage. I remember mentioning throughout this run, actually, that... What is it? I tried running this route before with 2 tanks. I have choked so many times to this part of the game because I just took damage I never expected to. So yeah, I mean, if you're ever thinking about running this route after watching this or consuming other pieces of unrestricted content, please don't be like me. Just take 4 tanks, take 5 tanks, at least until you get really comfortable. The end of this game is extremely dangerous. Trust. Alright, moving forward. We're basically just playing the end of the game as usual now. We're back to continuity. Only thing is we don't have the gravity suit like I mentioned, so certain bosses are going to be pain. I wanted power bomb drops from the robots in that last room, but I didn't get them, so I hope I get them here. I did get them, nice. I need a power bomb so I can blow up the glass bridge coming up right here. Okay. Now we're gonna head to the Gold Chozo, which is the ultimate Chozo warrior. He's also very scary. This guy does a tremendous amount of damage. Yeah, I just touched him with the back of my foot, or the back of his foot, and I took 129 damage. That wasn't even a regular attack. These spit attacks, for example, do so much damage. It's really scary. But thankfully, you can dodge them by walking forward, which is still scary, but if you trust in yourself, it'll be fine. And now we can go up to the final boss of the game, Ravenbeak. Ravenbeak is pretty simple. Just shoot him with missiles and beams and sometimes cross bombs and sometimes storm missiles just to get his HP to 0. There is one trick in the fight, however, that is really important to mention. It's on phase 1 called Gold Skip. And Gold Skip is essentially when you get his Aeon shield down to red, you take the parry after the red wave attack, and then you do as much damage as possible by shooting as many beams and storm missile combos as possible to go to phase 2 before you can't shoot him anymore. And if you do that correctly, you skip this phase where he has a gold Aeon shield and he's invulnerable to all damage, which is really annoying because you can't do anything, you just have to wait for him to parry. So we're gonna get Gold Skip here, or we're gonna try to. And after that, we're just going to do whatever we can to dodge as much damage as possible and then reduce his health to 0. So here's me depleting the Aeon shield, which I just did. And now here's the storm missiles, followed by beams. And there we go. We've skipped gold phase. And now we're just going to make sure we dodge as much damage as possible. Oh, this RNG is very funny. Okay. Staying near the wall like this is also very important, because not only does it allow us to hold this melee pose, but also it means that he can't do his stomp attack. Unfortunately, he did double galling, so I have to abandon the wall. The angle at which he's shooting at that point is actually going to contact me instead. So, unfortunately. This is actually a pretty early parry, I'll take it. So the parry cutscene normally you don't take, but if it's early enough, you can get a lot of free damage in and be invulnerable to damage because you can't take damage during it. And there we go. That's Ravenbeak done pretty quickly, from what I understand. A pretty good fight. And that is the boss number 29. We have the hardest boss in the game coming up, which is Ravenbeak X. If you know, you know. But no, this boss is actually pretty simple. Wait for 6 steps and then hold your hyper beam on step 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now you can look away. Boom. Time is coming up soon, so I'll announce it when we get there. We're gonna need the escape now, which is very simple. We lose the ability to use any Aeon abilities. However, we do have the Hyper Beam, which annihilates everything in your path, which only really applies to blocks, because enemies also, when they touch you, they instantly die, because they're X-enemies, and you're a Metroid now, from what I understand. That's how it works. Using power bombs here to clean away one specific enemy that hinders your movement because it's a suction enemy. You can use power bomb to get rid of it real quick. And the rest of the escape is pretty much the same. I'm gonna try Arc Spark. I'll just try it. This is a Shine Spark devised by a top runner who is now on break. I messed it up. And this is why we don't do Arc Spark without learning it. No worries, I'll get it one of these days. Spark it up all the way. We do those 2 jumps there to avoid getting a very long spark cutscene. That was not supposed to happen. Oh well, I can get it back here. And we're about to call time. 1:14:11. That's a pretty good time. The estimate, I set it to 1:17 because this route is very volatile. But I got past most of it with relative confidence, so I'm actually pretty happy about this run. That's a GG in my book. Let's hit up the end game screen just to make sure that we actually beat 30 bosses. If I beat 29, I'm not sure what I'll do. I'll be fine though. I'm sure we've gotten 30. Right? Right? It's lit. Alright, great. So, that was Metroid Dread, all bosses unrestricted. And it might look really intimidating, but trust me, this is just, like, this is the hardest variation of it. There are plenty of variations of Aber. So, if you want to dabble in unrestricted, honestly, all bosses is the best place to start in my opinion. Any percent is a lot more technical in certain places, but all bosses, there's a lot of ways to make a lot of things easier. So if you do want to start your unrestricted journey, then come on in and try out Aber. If you want to play the game just in general in a speed gaming context, but you don't want to deal with any heavy-handed glitches, NMG exists. AB NMG is also a very fun route, as opposed to any percent, which is still pretty fun, but you don't get to melt 10 million bosses, so it is what it is. And that's going to be it from me. I'd like to thank SpeedGaming for allowing me up on their stage. Congratulations to all runners that played and will continue to play. We're all fighting for a good cause here. Shoutouts to Arcandy, who is the pioneer of anything unrestricted. Shoutouts to Dio for continuing to pioneer unrestricted in Arc's leave of absence. Shoutouts to all Metroid Dread speedrunners for continuing to make this game great. I'm going to sign off. Thank you for having me. See you next mission.